figure it out?
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I'll do some work on my end too.
All right, man. Yeah, we got nobody up. I'll let people come on. So we had some technical issues and lost our stream. So we're restreaming, waiting for people to come up. All right, people are moving over, it looks like. Sorry about that, guys. I'm not sure. We set this up, and for whatever reason, it wouldn't grab my camera. So, you know what? We live in an imperfect world, and as a direct-to-e-com company, we will always try to be as raw and as real as possible. And with that unpolished, unvarnished look, sometimes you're going to get some technical glitches and things are going to happen. But such is life. All right, so today's gun lunch with Tom. Lunch today is about almost over. It was leftover New York strip steaks with green beans. Did a bunch of them last night on my Kamado Joe, which if you don't have a ceramic grill, they work very well. They're not cheap, but I got it. And weeks later, my wife said, I don't know what you're doing, but your steaks are so much better. So they do work really well. Anyhow, let me get this out of here. So get my agenda up. Stuff we're doing today. It's tactical steak knife. Today we're going to cover some top questions that came in based on last week or 2 weeks ago's show. Some people typed some questions I wanted to answer, as well as any other questions. And again, the purpose of the live show is to be available. You know, we're again direct to e-com, direct to consumer company, and there's nothing better than we can do than directly interact with our customers, with people who follow us, the people who want to learn more. So please take this time. You can ask me anything. There's nothing that we're not open. I'm not one to talk about. You know, we live in a world of sound bites and polished. Everybody's so worried about saying the wrong thing or getting canceled or anything, and I don't care. We're about running a business that's done great work in the military. We're trying to change the way America thinks about gun storage and make people safer, better prepared. And if that means we ruffle some feathers, so be it. I'm okay with it. So we have questions. We're going to talk how-to section today. We get asked a lot about bolting safes to a wall when you can't go to the floor. And now in my home office, my house, I'm on the basement. My house faces my backyard. It's on a hill, so my basement actually opens up, and there's windows there, and it's a tile floor, so I could not bolt my cabinets to the floor, and I went to the wall. I'm going to go over that and best methods for doing that. Today's conversation, I want to talk a little bit about dealing with anti-gun people, or people who are anti-Second Amendment, the hardcore people. I see people getting in conversations that typically turn into arguments, and it's always, the Second Amendment wasn't written for AR-15s, or we need to get guns off the streets. And the 2A guys are like, oh, that's my right. And they're going back and forth. Nothing's really changing. And I've had several conversations with people who are quite liberal and not gun people. And I find that trying to take a little different approach. The goal here isn't to win the argument, because you're not. You're never going to convince an anti-gun person that guns are okay. However, you can plant seeds of doubt in what they believe. And I'm just going to kind of go through some conversations that I had. I put some notes down just to kind of so I remember them correctly. And there were conversations that resulted in the other person saying, I never thought about it like that. That's a really good point. And right there I knew, no, they're not going to go out and buy themselves 3 handguns and 2 rifles, but there's somebody who at least has a little more of an understanding of why firearms, why we have the Second Amendment, and that firearms aren't the big problems, aren't the big problem or cause of the big problems in our society right now. Again, if anybody has any questions about anything we're talking about today, by all means, just type it in. Go through a couple of quick ones. Thumbs up for New York strip stick. Yeah, they are good. And do we have some for the rest of us? Well, we can look at that, doing a open lunch project of some sort. And then what do you have for apartment dwellers? Well, most of our hit that real quick. Our cabinets, ultralight gun safes. A big heavy gun safe, most apartments, most condos have within the HOA or within the rules, you can't have a big heavy safe. I lived in California for many years, and in the apartment buildings, they're wood structures up to 6 stories tall, all wood. In the event of a structure fire, they don't want a heavy safe falling through the floors. So they were specifically banned. But if you look at our Agile cabinet, it's the Agile, I think, is 96 pounds or so. I mean, fully packaged with all packaging is just about 100 pounds. But it's a lightweight cabinet you can put anywhere. Even our bigger Answer safes are 300-ish pounds. You can move them with a hand truck, and any of those can be used within a condo. Everything we do, and this goes back to our military roots, is lightweight, flexible, modular storage. We live in a society that moves fast. People want freedom of motion, freedom to do what they want to do. Having something big, huge, heavy that you can't move is an anchor point in your life. So we do lightweight modular storage. So if you go to our website, look at the Agile line. It's lightweight. They ship flat. You assemble it. They assemble. If you're buying several of them, the first one will take you 20 minutes. The second one will take you about 5 or 6. It's a pretty simple system. It's a patented assembly. And once those bolts tighten, it's amazingly strong. So I'm going to jump into a couple of questions that we were asked based on the last show. Roy wrote in, have you ever thought about having authorized dealers selling your product along the side of firearms? Now, we do have some dealers, and it's something we looked at years ago. We had far more dealers. We kind of pulled back away from it. I like the idea of selling our product along right with the gun, but one of the challenges and this is just coming from me personally, there are good gun shops, there are bad gun shops. I've been in some big box stores where you're sitting there at the counter and somebody walks up, say, I'm looking for a handgun, and the guy behind the counter is like, well, what are you looking for? I'm like, well, it's my first gun. Okay, well, this is a Glock, it's real popular. And the guy's an idiot. That's not how you sell a first-time buyer a firearm. There's a lot more involved there, and there should be. And then you've got gun shops where they come to more boutique shops where the owners, the people working there, take a personal vested interest in making sure that the buyer gets the proper firearm. If you're buying a first gun, that's a big decision. And getting the proper firearm for that person will create a person that will train, will shoot, will become proficient, and be a good, responsible gun owner. A bad purchase decision or bad recommendations will end up in a gun that's sitting in a box somewhere back in a shelf because it's too big, it's too heavy. There's a lot of reasons, but that conversation with a gun buyer at the time of the purchase, I think, is critical. We decided, we looked at having these gun shops also include our storage with their gun sales, and then I kind of said, let's not do that because I didn't want to interfere with that conversation. I think that conversation is critical. That gun owners or the gun store, the guys who run the store as a salesman, it's critical that they are focused on the firearm sale and making sure that the buyer gets the best information to make the best choice for them. After that fact, they'll come to us, they will hopefully purchase our product. Now we do have our handgun storage solution coming out. We're targeting beginning of next year SHOT Show for a launch. I'd love to get it out sooner. I'm not going to share too much on it. It's innovative, it's different, and we think it's going to be a game changer. That is a product that we may put out through some dealers, through gun shops. It doesn't require a lot of explanation. Our agile cabinets, our answers, what's behind me, our whole gun storage system. If you've not seen it, if you don't know it, it does require a decent amount of explanation or knowledge to understand it. We are very different than gun safes. People don't just walk up and see us and see a gun safe. I want this one. They really need to spend some time to learn what our system is so they understand it. We think once most people get what our system is, it becomes a very easy decision to make. Next question. This is great. Taco Pro. That's his name. He had a comment. Now, if it was Taco Amateur, I wouldn't take the time to answer. But since he's a pro, let's go with it. Talk more about your products in detail. What gauge metal is it made out of? We already know traditional gun safes do not work. That's why we're watching your video. Stop talking about how bad other safes are and focus on your own products. More detail. Shows videos how the products are made, and he goes on about some of the details within the safes. Kind of calling me out a little bit. Well, I'll tell you what, it's a good comment. And I think you're right. I do fall into that trap, and I think it's natural. I get up every morning, live, breathe, and everything we do is secure. We're surrounded by our products all day long. And it's really easy to fall into that trap of being very single-minded focused, or very, you get kind of tunnel vision on things. And I forget, that a lot of people, such people tuning in, watching our show, or coming to our videos or one of our trade show booths, they don't know this stuff. They haven't seen our brand. So it's real easy for me to just kind of scoot past my own brand, figuring everybody knows what it is, and go to the safes and call them out. So that's a good comment. And I can't give you a direct answer that I'm going to do something different, other than to say is I'll make it a point to try to stay more focused on the positives of what we do and do better comparisons. If I'm talking about a problem with a safe, do better comparisons. Now, you do specifically bring up locking bolts. And it's something I guess we don't talk about a lot in our videos on our products. I hadn't even noticed. Again, we may be too close to it, but just to address that real quick. Every cabinet, everything from the fast box up to our answer line and even our true safe, uses some sort of a bolt. They're all hardened steel bolts, and they're of various different sizes. The gun safe industry all uses bolts. Now, in some of the cheap Chinese safes, the bolts are hollow. It's pretty interesting. But truly, our true safe, which was our 2,000-pound monster safe that we used to make, we now OEM that, we don't carry it directly, used a 1-inch bolt. Our answers use, I believe, a 1.5. The agile cabinets are a 3/4 inch. But when you look at bolt sizes, it doesn't make that big of a difference, because with a bolt, you're talking about a straight shear load. And the shear load on 3/4 inch steel is way beyond what the rest of this cabinet can withstand. Same with safes. The shear on bolts, if they're properly made. Now, there are some really cheap Chinese safes where the bolts are hollow and they just bend and flex. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about regular safes. A bolt is a bolt. A hardened steel bolt is not going to shear. The loads required are way beyond. The cabinet's going to crush first. That being said, though, in the gun safe world, if you look at the brochures, they focus almost 100% of the security dialogue on the door and on the bolts. I've talked about this before, and they're going to show you all these different bolts, corner bolts, and all these different ways they're doing it. And I've seen some at SHOT Show or trade shows where they've got it open with a gear mechanism with 30 bolts going out. It's really impressive. And that's their talking point. But that's not the weakest point of your safe. The weak point of the safe is the sides and the back. If people want access, they're going to cut into a safe. Now, I think Mr. Taco Pro also referenced our safes. I'm not sure if he did or not, if our safes were cut proof, and they're not. I've got videos where I cut a Liberty safe in half, the Fat Boy Jr. in minute 20 seconds. I cut a big hole in the side of it in 18 seconds. And that's just with a common circular saw and a carbide blade. It's easy to do. You can cut our safes in half too. You can cut holes in the safe. It's the same steel. We use the same gauge steel as everybody else. And going to, if you go to 1/4 inch plate steel, it slows the saw down a little bit, not much. Remember, the saw blade is designed to cut 1/2 inch rebar on job sites all day long, on concrete job sites. So going through plate steel, it just isn't a big deal for them. That being said, our safes are smaller, lighter. We had a comment about for apartments. The Agile and even the Answer cabinets are designed to go in discrete locations. And I talked about it in our last show, and it's all over our website on decentralized storage. Store guns where it makes sense. Store guns where thieves don't look, but where you would want them in the event of a crisis. Again, if you want to learn more about decentralized storage, go to our website. It's all over the place. Got a bunch of questions coming in. Any ideas for fire-resistant ammo storage? That's a toughie because Liberty makes an ammo cabinet that's insulated. And they don't give it a fire rating, but it does have a level of insulation to it. In the event of a fire, throw away your ammo. Don't try to save ammo in a fire. If the ammo heats up at any level, it can change the properties of ammo. I'm not an ammo expert, but everything I've been told, read, learned is if ammo gets cooked at all in a fire, replace it. It's not worth saving. The Liberty cabinet, I think, is problematic. Ammo in a fire burns off. It'll crackle like firecrackers, non-ballistic. But in a truly insulated cabinet, in a hot fire, the inside of that cabinet is going to heat up. It's going to heat up slower than flame on a box of 9mm. The flame is going to pop the outer 9mm and slowly burn its way in as they crackle. If that's insulated, it's going to heat up a little more gradually. And it's my belief you're going to get a lot more rounds that'll reach critical temperature at the same time, creating explosion. And once that happens, your cabinet now is a pipe bomb. My plan is to demonstrate that cooking off a commercial ammo storage cabinet that is available, and I believe it's going to explode in grand fashion. That's something we're hoping I can get that shot in late August. There's a lot of prep work that has to be done to do that in a safe manner, but that is something that is on the plans for this summer. When we do it, it will be a very popular video. And what else we got? Oh, not looking to save ammo, looking for safety for firefighters. Okay, your best bet then is to store ammo in a fully vented cabinet. Don't put it in a sealed cabinet. We have our ammo cabinet. It's our 2424. The thing is a beast, and it holds thousands and thousands of pounds of ammunition. It's available on our website. If you just look under ammo cabinet, there's others out there. The key for storing ammo is it needs to be fully vented. In the event of a fire, you want the ammo to cook off. And you can have a million rounds of ammo in a fire. It just crackles. It's not ballistic. It's like having little firecrackers. I wouldn't put a large volume of ammo in a safe that has drywall and carpeting or in a sealed metal box. I think you could be making a pipe bomb, so I would avoid that. I think firefighters would probably appreciate it. A guy makes a comment about our prices went up a while ago. They did, and the cost of what we do went up. It's the reality. Right now, you've got steel prices and logistic costs are going through the roof. You'll notice that there's a lot of safes that are out of stock right now. If you look at gunsafes.com or some of those websites, so a ton of products are out of stock. The reason they're out of stock is they can't produce them for a price that they could actually sell them for. The cost of manufacture has gone up so much. We've had some materials that we buy have gone up 300%. As of now, we're not raising our price going forward. We have no plans to. We're taking a margin hit. It's the cost of doing business post-COVID right now is dramatically higher. We believe it's going to stabilize and come back down. The logistics cost of shipping has gone up dramatically, and we subsidize shipping. We have a shipping charge on our website for our products. On some items, it's nowhere near what we're actually paying for freight. So the cabinets did go up in price. We've got a business to run. I've got payroll to make, and we're trying to do as efficiently as we can. One of the reasons we are direct to consumer is, cutting out that middleman allows us to keep the prices as competitive or as good as we can. If I was to go to Bass Pro and say, I want you to carry all these products, Bass Pro wants to make 40% on everything on their shelves. There's a 40% profit. Well, for me to build 40% profit for Bass Pro and us still to make money on the cabinets, we have to do a significant price increase. And it's just not something we would do or would want to do. One of the reasons we stay direct, we give up a lot of notoriety by not being on shelves next to others. but we're also able to offer a better product at a better price. I need a gun room like yours. There's a great video on our website about building gun rooms, and it's one of our more popular videos. We did kind of a Bob Vila this old house. So it was like this old gun room when we built this particular room. And they're becoming more and more popular. We're doing, we do quite a few, we do some custom quoting, custom design work, but most people can watch that video, lay out and design their own system. All right, so today's conversation or talking point, I hate to say talking point, it sounds like freaking some Fox News or some news channel, dealing with people who are anti-gun. And I just think getting in the argument's a mistake. If you're going to just get into a pissing match, it doesn't matter. Once the discussion goes emotional, nobody's learning. Your brain shuts off. You always hear, when you hear the story, like two people argue, husband and wife argue. I don't remember what we were arguing about. It's because once you go emotional, you're no longer recording. You're no longer in a thinking mode. Your brain switches over to fight or flight, and you're in a defense mode. And it's just natural. It's just kind of human evolution. So people on the far left side of this thing, they like to make broad brush statements or big broad statements. We need stricter gun control. Oh, we need stricter gun control. We need to get guns off the street. My first response is always why? And it usually throws them because they're looking for a fight sometimes. Well, why? And they kind of look at you almost like you're nuts and say, I said, look, I'm not some crazy gun guy or anything. I just, I think this is a big topic to talk about. Why? Why is that important? And they'll come back with, well, we're trying to, we want to get rid of violence, get rid of gun deaths, reduce the level of crime and violence in cities. And I'm like, okay. I said, so what you're saying is, if you have stricter gun control laws, that's going to reduce violence. Now, I'm saying something to agree with them. I'm restating their position so they agree with me. That's kind of a tactic, but it gets them to relax and they're saying, well, yeah. And then this is a great question. Do you know this or do you believe this? And that may throw them off a little bit, but it's a great question. Do you know it or do you believe it? They're going to say, well, we know this. It's always we know this because society knows this. And I said, well, if you know it, then you can produce data to support that you know it. I mean, an example is, I know water freezes at 32. I can demonstrate that. I can prove that it does. I know Lincoln's head is on a penny. I can see it. But when it comes to your statement, crime in cities, do you know it or do you believe it? Because I think it's a belief. I think it's a belief that's perpetuated by our media and by politicians. And you actually look at data, and this is what I tell them. I said, I look at a lot of data. To me, this is a big topic. This is a big decision. Gun control is a big decision, and I don't trust the media to supply me with information. And it's all out there. You can tell anybody, if you go to Google FBI crime data or Justice Department crime data, gun statistics, the data is all laid out. And it's laid out pretty clean, pretty easy to read. And when you look at actual data, the cities or the areas in America that have the strictest gun control laws have very high crime, and it's increasing. It's not going down. And I always reference, I look at Baltimore, Washington, Chicago, Minneapolis, Portland. I always list Chicago third. And the reason is, again, this is a little bit of a tactic, which I'm not big on tactics, but this does work, is everybody says Chicago when they're referencing gun violence. They always talk about, hey, well, Chicago. And when you say that first, people just, oh, he's just stating what everybody else does. But I'll go Baltimore, Washington, Portland, Chicago. Now to what I'm hoping is they're looking at that, it's just a sea of data points that I'm looking at. And in those cities, they've got strict gun control, and yet crime is going up. And sometimes the people, they'll get a little, they'll start getting mad, or they'll start getting frustrated because you're undermining their belief. So then I try to get them back. I a little story I tell them. This is how I won over somebody. Earlier this year in January, February, in Minneapolis. Now, Minneapolis is America's most educated city. I didn't know. I happened to go there a lot on business. And I learned that most educated city, which also because it's so educated makes it quite liberal, and is pretty strong anti-gun, anti-Second Amendment population there. And all of a sudden riots started. And you've got a lot of people in condos in downtown Minneapolis, pretty high-end neighborhoods, looking out their windows. These are people who do not own firearms. They are pro-gun control. They do not want firearms. Looking out their windows, seeing rioting, 3 stories down, businesses being burned to the ground, businesses being looted, cars being destroyed, things being thrown. You had an out-of-control crowd destroying a city. The only thing keeping them safe was the fact that the crowd didn't happen to walk up their stairs up to their 3rd floor. They had no ability to defend themselves. And they turned their TV on, and their elected officials, the people that they voted for, they entrusted their safety and security with, what were they saying? We need to defund police. We need to get rid of the police department and replace it. Some of the talking points were we're going to social workers. Anything's better than police. They were getting rid of the very group that could offer a level of protection. And these people in these condos for the first time they realized that their personal safety and security is on them. It's their responsibility. It's not the responsibility of their elected officials. They thought it was. But remember, these are just elected officials. And there's good ones, there's bad ones, and there's horrible ones. But all they are is people who get you to vote for them and they get elected. Do they really know about safety and security? I don't know. Do they care? They say they do. I don't know. But at a time of crisis, do you trust your safety and security to elected officials? And I'm saying people shouldn't. And a lot of these people that next day went out to buy their first firearm. And when you looked we looked at a lot of this data. We were building we were designing the initial phase of our handgun storage solution. We were looking at a lot of gun sale data, and first-time gun buyers during this spiked, and it was in very liberal cities and in very liberal states. People who never owned guns were all going out to buy their first firearms because they, for the first time, realized the government, their position was only the police should have guns, only the government officials and security forces should have guns. Well, in this case, at the time of crisis, the politicians made another call. They made another decision, and it was within their right to make that decision. I think it was wrong. I think the voters think it was wrong, and they'll probably pay the ultimate price in their next election. When we look at gun sales, Delaware was the lowest gun ownership in the country for a state, and they had the highest growth. I believe they were the highest growth in firearm sales, and this was first-time buyers. So I relate that story. It's a good story, but the point of that is it's a real-world story of what happened. I'm trying to get the person I'm talking to just go, I never thought of that. And that's what happened in that conversation. The person said, well, I never looked at it that way. So safety and security is it's a personal choice. It's what we are, a personal responsibility. Now the other statistics you can go, if you're going to get in the conversation, the AR-15 conversation, make sure you know your statistics. It's all out there, because sometimes they'll come back to, well, we just got to get the AR-15. We got to get these, machine guns, whatever, off the streets. That'll make people safer. And I'll throw right back to them. Do you know this, or do you believe it? At this point, they may laugh, they may get really pissed, but there's a lot of data. It's easy. You should have, if you get in these conversations, know your numbers. The 2018, 14,000 murders, 10,000 of them were from rifle or from guns. 10,000 murders, 10,200 from guns. Of those, 297 were rifle, 233 were shotgun. Of the rifle data, they don't specifically break out AR-15. However, the 237, if you go and do some digging on research and look at the ratio of rifles to AR-15s in ownership, you can kind of get it. It's about 1/3, 2/3. AR-15s is the #1 selling gun in America. When you look at gun ownership, it's about 1/3. So take 1/3 of that number, you're down to about 100. I think the number's close. I looked at numbers years ago. 2013, 14 had a number of 87. It's been pretty consistent. That's the number of deaths by an AR-15 in a year against 10,200 deaths by other guns. So I'm thinking I was told statistically, taking this off the street is not going to change anything. Statistically, the other side of it is, if you're looking at a firearm for home defense, there is no safer firearm than an AR-15. It's easy to learn, easy to be proficient. It's easy to aim and not, and be safe, muzzle aware. It's not easy to accidentally discharge compared to a lot of handguns. It's fully drop safe. You can drop the gun, it's not going to discharge, provided your safety's on and you're maintaining proper safety levels. The last piece I'll say to somebody then is, so I like to hunt, I like to sport shoot, I shoot sporting clays, I like to do some long range shooting. I own several firearms. I keep them locked in my home. How does me owning firearms make you any less safe than you are right now, whether I own them or not? And they typically don't have an answer. I said the opposite. I said the answer is it doesn't. You're trying to apply a broad brush solution to what is localized problems. Yeah, there's some areas of the country that have significant gun crime, but simply broad brushing gun legislation hasn't worked in the past. The areas where they've done it has not made an impact. Politically, it's a wonderful thing to do. Hold up a big black gun and say, I'm going to get this off the street. If they did it, it's not going to make any difference. I mean, remember, AR platform assault weapon, I hate to use that term, but all the AR platform weapons were banned for 10 years. The ban expired. There was not much of a push to keep it going, even by Democrats, because all the data showed it made no difference. There was no change in crime data. Let me get back. I've been talking for too long, and get back into questions and answers. If gun laws work, Chicago would be Disneyland. Well, that's funny. Now, I'll tell you, on Disneyland, in my house, there's the big D's. We go to Florida. If we go to Florida, Daddy don't do Disney. Now, I'm taking my kids there. We've been there and stuff, but you got to pay me a lot of money to go to Disney. I'm just not a Disney guy. It's, for the price of taking your family to Epcot Center, you can actually go to Italy for a day or two. It just seems crazy. So back to your comment on the gun store salesperson. They probably bought something they saw in a movie and not actually understood what they could use. It does happen, and people buy on ego or buy on cool, but it's important for gun store owners to do the due diligence and make sure people make smart choices. And I think for the most part, they do a very good job. Most of the gun shops that I've been into, the people I talk to are very passionate about what they're doing. Yeah, if you took away everyone's guns and replaced them with hammers and bats, we'd have a hammer and bat death problem. Well, they'd be on the rise. It's true. And you're not going to stop violence by changing the tools. And, someone got in a car in Las Vegas several years ago and killed a lot of people. And it was a mass killing, but it wasn't with firearms. It was with a car. And it was brutally effective. And it was not a big news story because it wasn't a firearm. But I'll tell you what, I'm kind of glad it wasn't a big news story, because we get so many copycat type things. If the media didn't cover mass shootings at all, locally, let people know what's going on, but not make, give these people, these idiots behind the gun that much press, would we have a lot less? I mean, I don't know. I think probably we would. Hey, so let me jump over. I want to go. We're kind of getting a little out of sequence, maybe. Industry call out. We haven't done that yet today. And every episode, I'm going to call out a company or somebody in the industry that needs to change. And secure. We're all about. We changed the way the military stores guns. And what we did, we didn't set out to do it. We just set out to make a cool weapon rack, and they loved it. And the end result was they really changed how they do things, and the armories function much better. In the civilian world, we're trying to change the way people think about gun storage and change the industry. There's a lot of dinosaurs in our industry, and I think it's problematic. I think the industry, to be relevant, needs to stay fluid and to modernize. So today's industry call out is, I'll pull this over. This is my Savage 110 Elite. rifle. This is the bolt for it. And the Savage rifle, this is a brutally accurate. I've got it in 6.5 Creedmoor, 2,000-yard gun. I've got a Bushnell, the XRS2 Elite scope on it, and it's set up pretty well. It's a great gun. However, it doesn't eject, and none of them do properly. There might be one or two, but they have an ejection problem with their bolt. And there's several videos. If you have the gun, I would recommend going over to Paramount Tactical and going to his YouTube channel. Gary Melton over at Paramount does a very good video in the fix on this thing. You can send it back to Savage, and they change the spring. There's a little bit of a filing you need to do to make it work. I'm not going to go into the details of what the fix is, but the industry call out is on Savage. You guys are making a gun that has an ejection problem. You know it's not working, and you're continuing to make it. And the reason you're continuing to make it is the demand is so high. Right now, the demand for rifles like this is very high. People are buying guns, and these things have been on and off a back order for the better part of a year. And it's your push to make money and not slow down production to put an inline change in order. This would be a machining change. I mean, it sounds easy. I mean, if you're not in metal fabrication or in machine shop work, making a change like this isn't really easy. It's more work than you think. However, you're producing a product that's expensive, that's precision made, that doesn't work. So guys, stop making these things, pull them off, and make the change and do it right, because the guys who are buying these guns shouldn't have to go and going around. Steven is here. What's going on, man?
Do you want a kiss?
Oh, stop. All right. Yeah.
Bunch of fizzy drinks.
Oh, hey, sir. It's Stephen Walroth, one of our techs, amazing tech at that, is delivering a beverage, and there's the inner office thing here with me and dark chocolate. I'm a health food guy, I eat really healthy, but I do like my dark chocolate. So we got you took everyone's gun, or the same as industry call out time with a happy face. That's funny. So yeah, does anybody have any other questions while we're going? We've covered a bunch of stuff today. And if anybody has any questions, about any subject whatsoever, the purpose of Gun Lunch Live is to keep the dialogue, get the dialogue going, and get people talking, because we live in coming out of COVID, so many people were home, and in our industry, so many people are afraid to talk. Hell, I think in our country right now, the cancel culture has a lot of people afraid to speak their mind, because they're afraid it's going to be taken out of context, it's going to be soundbited, it's going to be flipped around and used against them. You've got a lot of people who no longer speak what's on their mind. Trump, like him or not, he spoke what was on his mind. The raw data just came out, and some of what he's said, I really cringed. Others, I was just cheering. But it was, if anything, he was unfiltered. I think it shocked a lot of people. But I think America in general, everybody should be more unfiltered. There's this fear of talking about certain subjects. Fear of being labeled a racist in America now has a lot of people afraid to talk. A lot of educators afraid to educate where they should. But we don't need to get into that now unless you guys want to. All right. Since you guys offer a third party for shipping, with the answer line, I live on a third story of an apartment. I would love to have a few of those in my apartment. The answer is they're not probably going to deliver them if it's a walk-up upstairs. It's difficult for us to contract. It's a liability issue. However, the answer cabinet, it is 300 pounds. Now, if you order a refrigerator, they're going to deliver that refrigerator. Two guys are going to bump it up that stairs on a big appliance dolly. You can do that with the answer cabinet. On the answer 12, I take 3 guys, 2 in the bottom, 1 on the top, and get a real appliance dolly, strap the thing down, and you can wheel it up. It's not it's not unmanageable. We've moved them around all sorts of areas with that. If you go to the Agile cabinet, that's UPS. Bring it up to your apartment and assemble it where you want it, or disassemble it or move it. It's pretty easy to deal with. Talk a little bit about the brackets for various guns and why they're different. Well, it's interesting. Let me grab a bracket for a various gun. And this is I'm grabbing a bracket off the wall. So when we talk about brackets for guns, and this was how we became the largest supplier to the U.S. military. This is our upper cradle. I've got the snap grip on it. Pop it off. So the snap grip allows the guns to snap in. I'll show that in a second. Upper cradle. We don't have different brackets for different guns. I've got one, and that was how we really won over the SOCOM community, SEAL team, Special Forces. Our competitors in the military had, one had probably 50 different brackets. The other had over 130 different brackets for all the different guns and different pieces. And when we approached the whole thing and started looking at it, we had never seen a military weapon rack. We didn't have a lot of experience in the space, but my thought was, let's try to make one bracket that does it all, because in an armory, you don't know. The armor comes into an armor, especially a SOCOM, like a Special Forces, such a varied amount of weapons. Armor comes in, he walks up to a rack with let's say he's got an M4, just the barrel, boom, pulls the M4. Next guy comes and hands him a 249 saw, which is a belt-fed machine gun. I got one on the wall over here. Just store that. Boom, same bracket, adjust it, just slides it up on the louvers, goes in, he holds that weapon. 50 cal machine gun, same bracket, a Carl Gustav shoulder launch system, anti-tank weapon, same bracket. We make one bracket that holds all of the guns. That way in the military, as MTO or as the weapons density list or what is in their armory changes over time, the system still works. So what we found in the military, guys would design, our competitors would come in with a weapon storage system, design it, install it, and it works perfectly fine. Flash forward 2 years when all this gear has changed and they've got very different guns, and the specialty bracket for the 240 Bravo machine gun no longer fits the sniper rifle they have there or the precision, and the armies would end up looking like birds' nests. And they were just a mess, because it's not easy for the military to go out and procure a handful of brackets. Simply buying something for the Army can be a difficult process, going through contracting, getting bids. So we designed a system that once they have this one bracket, it holds every single gun. Let me grab a, what do I got here? That's not, let me grab an AR. So I got a M4 here. Now this is an airsoft M4. We got a boatload of them here that we use. When we go to military trade shows, I can't bring real guns, and my system looks silly without guns in it. So we buy cheap airsoft guns. In fact, we were actually a wholesaler for a airsoft line. So we get them really cheap. And these are dirt cheap. You drop this thing, it's going to shatter. But it is the correct size and it does work. So upper barrel, just holding your gun. You can do an optic in, optic out, and it's cut for that profile. Next, we've got the square notches, and that's for foregrip. And that's on almost any gun. From a lever action, you can grab the gun at the grip. Next, we've got, let's hold this up, the little square notches cut out. And those are for a mag well. And what that does, the back of the cabinet here, that stands the gun up quite vertical. And it buys you a whole bunch of space between the gun and the saddle. And that's so you can drop in storage bins, like in a lot of the SOCOM racks, if they're using an M4, what they call the SOP mod kit. It's about 15 different components that attach to the M4. And they're going to use different components based on the mission. The system, they put the gun in the rack. My hand is where the back of the rack is, stores it. And all this space above, they're dropping in bins to store the components that aren't on the gun, because those components still need to be indexed and associated with this firearm, or with this rifle. That's the nuts and bolts of the saddle. And it works very well. They store barrels 2 7/8 barrel center, which when you're storing rifles, that gives you room for an optic up to like a 5-inch thermal imaging. Then the last piece I've got is the snap grip. I want to get this installed. This was developed with the Marine Corps. You get a real firearm because the plastic is not going to work. Okay, this is a lever action 45. It's a 45 Colt. So what this does is the spring-mounted rollers allow the gun to snap into the rack. So when the gun goes in, there's no chance it's going to fall out. In the military, they've got slings, like the Marine Corps. They have slings in all their rifles. And they ran into situations where armors working fast would pull a rifle out and the sling would catch the rifle next to it, causing it to fall. And if you spent much time around the Marine Corps armories, you'd come across somebody that had a couple stitches in their head from getting hit with an M4. So we developed this for the Okinawa project. Was it 2 years ago, we won a contract. We're rebuilding Okinawa, and now we've got 22 containers that are arriving this week for the most part, I think. We're rebuilding most of the armories, and we're using this system. We developed this specifically working with them, but this is going out to all of our products across the military because they love it. But it's an extra accessory that you can get. It's not very expensive, and it does allow all the guns to snap into the racks. It just gives you a very positive mounting. If you live in California or an area where there's seismic activity, I would absolutely recommend it. Glasses, I can't see anything. All right, so we are running out of time here, aren't we? I'm just reading through some questions. Anything else that we've got? So the show is going to run every other Friday. We'll do Gun Lunch with Tom at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Next show will be Friday, July 23rd. I'm going to try to keep doing it. If I'm traveling, I'm going to still try to do it live while traveling. We'll probably be live from SHOT Show this year. And if I'm at any other shows or anything else, I'm not sure the technology on that yet, but that is something that we are going to try to do. Is there before we wrap things up, is there anything else that people want to know? You've got my undivided attention, and I'd say don't be shy, but our industry typically isn't very shy. So, so today's lunch, if you tuned in late, for me was New York strip steak, which was left over from yesterday's grilling, and green beans. So, somebody said, when is SHOT Show? SHOT Show is typically the third week of January. It will be the show. I believe it's set up for this year. That's in Las Vegas. Are there any accessories coming out within the next month or two that we should be looking for on the website? We're in the process of doing a lot of product updates right now, and we've just hired a head of product development. It's a position we hadn't had before. Product development really was me. Jeff Field's our number 2 in the company. He's an operations ops background, and he and I would work together and bring in other people for product development. But with the company growing, we just, product development kind of dragged a little bit. I'll be honest. I mean, we're this innovative, cool company, this neat product. So I was the first to admit we were not getting it done as quickly as we should. So we have hired a very seasoned product development pro who's focused on that. So things that are coming is some new technology in our locking systems. We're going to incorporate a bunch of different technologies that I think will just make the safes easier to use and a little more flexible. Components and brackets wise, there's some things that I want to get done. I'm looking at a smaller wall mount AR or small rifle fast access cabinet. This would be very small. It would be very compact for closets or for in a room to be very discreet. That's something I'm personally kind of playing with on paper. I'd like to get done. I'll turn the question around though. What would you like to see? Would be another way to answer that. Is there something, we've got our tunnel vision, or we've got our optics, and we see things a certain way. Doesn't mean we don't miss things. So if there's a bracket, there's something that you want to store that we can't store, let us know. we'll take a look at it. Now, keep in mind that if the market's not big for that item, it's tough, because developing a new product can cost, it can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's amazing how cost escalates for product development. You look at tooling costs, and the simplest things sometimes, yeah, it's simple, but the machine to do that simple thing costs a fortune. So sometimes we can do it, sometimes we can't. AK mag holders, we've been asked a few times. We don't have one. We have mag holders, but I use the bins, and I personally really like using bins. No, it's not like perfect organized, but they're magazines. I throw them all in a bin. I got them, I grab them. Our storage bin system, if you don't know, it's just they're simple bins, and I use them for all sorts of stuff. But we've had more and more people asking us about that, so I have not looked in the queue to see where we are with that. You definitely need lights for all your Agile cabinets. Yes, we do, and that is coming. So yeah, that'll be a kit that you can retrofit into all the cabinets to give a lighting solution. So when you pop the door open, the lights turn on. I agree with you there. Safes in different colors is tough, and the reason is changing a paint line is really difficult to do. We don't make enough cabinets to, if you're going to say you're going to run something in gray or run something in red, well, if I'm not running thousands of them, it's not worth the cost to change. It's a powder coat paint line, and changing those over, we're not set up for rapid change. It's a whole different type of system that would cost millions and millions of dollars. Something that's not going to happen. Is there a possibility for colors in the future? There is. We don't sell enough cabinets yet to have the fluidity of that volume going through to make it so we can do it. And if you're doing color runs, now I've got to inventory all those, and it's a lot. But it is something that we have talked about. So I'm not sure what I'll put it out there. If we're going to make a different color, what would be the color you want us to make? Any color as long as you like gray. Yeah, that was the Ford color. Any color as long as it's black. Consider shortening the air light. I'm unaware of that one. I'm going to make a note of it. If we shorten the air light so the air hangs too long if you make a mistake. We are in the process of, as I said, looking at all of our lock technology and right now we're just doing like a forensic review of what do we have, how does it work, all this stuff. And then I want to start look at, from square one, how do we make it better? So that's something that I'll make a note of, make sure that's part of the dialogue. And guys, we're about 2 minutes left, so the 2-minute warning. If anybody has any last questions and stuff, again, next 2 weeks from now, we'll be doing Gun Lunch live again. I don't know what the topics will be yet. I haven't figured that out yet. If there's if anybody wants to post any comments on the actual video or things they have post-meeting, by all they can. We're going to try to get out a lot more about what's going on with the full-time marketing for video production, video creation, and other creative stuff. And I don't want to make his ego too big, but he's pretty good at his job. So I'm going to wrap this up right now. If, again, any questions at all, type them in. This video will be live on YouTube. And then don't hesitate to jump over to our website and check out the Agile, check out the answer. I do believe that the sale is still running on the Agile cabinets. We ran a 4th of July promo, and it was a huge sale, and they decided to let it run. We shut off the sale like on July 5th, and we get inundated with emails. I missed it. So we just, you know what? Let's just let it run for a few more days. So it still is. I don't know when that's going to end, but I know it's still there. So, all right, guys, I'm going to jump off. Thank you very much for joining, and I will talk to you all in 2 weeks on July 23rd, 1 o'clock Eastern time. All right, guys. Bye-bye.